All right, this week our data analysis has been the t-test. So be sure you watch the presentation on t-test and make sure you have it down before you start working on this data analysis lab. So first of all, you want to read the instructions very carefully. What's going on here and what do we want to know? What is our hypothesis? So you're going to start by putting the null hypothesis. What is the null hypothesis? You know the null hypothesis is going to say any difference between the two groups is just the result of random chance or maybe sampling error, but not enough to say that you found something unusual. Now you're going to have to word the alternative or research hypothesis. So what is the president of the company wondering about? How can you word that? So now we're going to analyze this data here. So you see you have 15 data points, 30 together, before and after scores for each employee. Now over here, of course, this is not your data. This is just the employees. You have 15 people that you get 2 scores from. So we're going to go over here, and I've just made up 2 columns here. They don't mean anything. I'm just showing you how it would be done when you get your data in there. All right. So first of all, I'm going to click on Data, and I should see Data Analysis over here, or I might see it this way instead. If you're on a Mac and you can't get this to work, you can take a look at Formulas over here, because there are some options under there too. All right, but we're going to use this one. This would say data analysis if this was a little longer. Okay, now I'm going to scroll down to the t-test, and there are 3 options here. Now notice in the instructions, this is a paired sample t-test. So I'm going to select that one. Okay, and now I'm going to enter my variable 1 right there. And then my variable 2 right here. And then what does the null hypothesis say is the mean difference? And that's what we're always testing, the null, so we'll put a null right there. I didn't cover up any data labels over here, so I don't have to click this. And this alpha level is the default, so I'm going to stick with that. I don't usually like this default where it creates a new worksheet for your results. If you have a lot of data on here, you might need to do that. But otherwise, you're probably going to want your output pretty near to where your data is, keeping everything all neatly organized. So let's say that we're going to make our output range, I'd say about here. What is that? E5. I'm going to type it in, or I could click on that. But make sure that your cursor's here, or it's going to go up to something else we clicked on. All right, ta-da, all done. So much easier than doing it by hand. So what we have here, we've got the means of the before and the after. We've got the variance for each. We've got how many observations. Well, we got a Pearson R there. We didn't even ask for it. It's free. There's our null hypothesis there. And there's degrees of freedom. So you will have learned about that already. The degrees of freedom here is 9. And that makes sense because I've got 10 pairs. Right? So yours should say 14 because you have 15 pairs. And then this is my t-stat. This is the value that I got for t. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and look, what are the results? I'm going to go ahead and start writing some results here. I would say T, and then put my degrees of freedom in here. That'd be 9, equals, and then what I got for my t-stat. So that would be a negative 2.175, 3 decimal places is more than enough. Not a comma. Got to be a period. There we go. And then a comma. And now is where I have to look at my alternative hypothesis. Does that say we have a directional or a non-directional t-test. So if you recall, the directional t-test says I'm looking in one specific way, that something's better or worse. And the non-directional or two-tailed is I'm looking to see if there's a difference. So you're going to have to decide which, because for each of them you have a different probability. So if it's a one-tailed test, I'm going to right here put that my probability is equal to 0.029. All right. Now if I'm doing a one-tailed test, then my probability is that was my one-tail. Yeah, if I'm doing a two-tail, it will be 0.0575. So, 3, 4 decimal places don't go all the way out. Some of these go really long. All right, and then I'm going to have to say here whether I used a one-tailed or a two-tailed test. And that'll be the answer to 4 over here. Now, the t-critical, remember the critical values mark the inside edge of the region of rejection. In other words, you had to get a t-value that was greater than the critical value. So, you see that's either positive or negative, doesn't matter. For a one-tail, whichever direction I'm looking at, it's going to be the same because it's just flipped over. It's, it's two identical halves. And then if I was using a t-test for two-tailed t-test, then this 2.26 whatever is what I would need to get past on either side. So that'll tell me if, see at 0.0575, is that greater than 0.05? Because if so, we would have to fail to reject the null hypothesis. All right, so now it gets to what would you tell the president in plain English? So we're not going to use terms like null hypothesis or an alternate or alternative hypothesis. We're just going to answer the question in the best way we can. But remember this, if I can reject the null hypothesis, that is not the same as proving the alternative hypothesis. So I have to watch how I word this. I can say what we observed, and I can say that that was or wasn't significantly different. But I can't go into a lot of detail about why, because really this is just the one experiment, and I'm just going to say what I got. All right, and we're going to get that all on one page, and you're going to submit that into D2L. Now remember, when you submit it, it needs to all be on one page when I open it. So if it's stretched out horizontally and you don't enter it that way, I'm not going to be able to see it. If you're stretching it out all across the screen on an Excel, it may not all show up. So make sure it all shows up as one page.